Today, empathy and humor in taking on mental health.
If you can't talk about it and you can't have just a normal conversation rather than, oh, I'm going to hear from HR about my benefits or time off, but hey, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to go to the dentist because I might do something crazy like kill myself before then, or do something rash like quit my job and sell everything and go become a hermit. But you said it yourself, it's a stigma. So it seems to me like bringing you in, you destigmatize, you demystify it and get the conversation going, even before you talk about tips and tricks and having your plan and having a structure in place to, attack it when things go a little bit sideways. Talk to me about how you use your humor and how you personally got into this, how you best destigmatize it. But you were a comedian, you were doing bits all over the country for corporate and, in comedy stores and comedy clubs. And how did you get here? And more specifically, how do you best destigmatize it?
Well, people seeing me on stage, obviously high functioning, and I tell my story. I open up by saying, okay, the elephant in the room, let's talk about that. You're wondering, a comedian talking about suicide, how does that work? And I tell my story.
Even the name, the mental health comedian, it's kind of like an oxymoron.
Yeah,
right?
making
it's a
jokes.
Little bit contradictory.
Yeah, because people think you're going to make jokes about suicide. Well, here's the thing about comedy. In comedy, you can make fun of any group to which you belong. So I can poke fun at people with mental illness, people who are suicidal, because I have mental illness and I'm suicidal. Brene Brown, in her book on vulnerability.
You are suicidal.
Oh, I have something called chronic suicidal ideation.
And you are suicidal and you've had several attempts. I know.
I actually only came close once during the last recession. Close enough I can tell you what the barrel of my gun tastes like. Spoiler alert, I did not pull the trigger.
We'll cover the barrel of the gun a little bit later.
Yeah. But that's one of the jokes I tell. I go, a barrel of the gun, spoiler alert, I didn't pull the trigger. Nervous laugh. And so I followed up with a friend of mine, Glenn Friesman, came to one of my keynotes last year, and he never heard me say that. Didn't pull the trigger. He came up and goes, hey, man, how come you didn't pull the trigger? I go, hey, man, could you try to sound slightly less disappointed? Much bigger laugh. Now I've got him at ease. There's a psychological principle. If you have something serious to tell somebody and you give them a little comic relief before or after, it makes the next serious thing you're going to tell them far more digestible.
It reminds me, not even in mental health, Frank, but sometimes when I'm dealing with clients and something comes up, a cancellation, which is very infrequent, but some challenge comes up. I don't use humor to make light of it or minimize it, but I do use humor to kind of lower the temperature of the situation a little bit.
Oh, yeah. And I combine humor and empathy in that I like nothing better than being at the airport in line to pick up my rental car behind somebody who's just screaming at the customer service person.
Yeah.
And so I walk up after they walk off and I say, yeah, I got all that. I got the covers and everything. Here's my question. At what point can I start screaming at you? and it shows them that I was paying attention. I know what kind of pain they're in, and B, it made them laugh. And I got to tell you, I can't tell you how many upgrades I've gotten in seats and cars and hotel rooms when you.
Not only are we going to give you the Cadillac, but you have your own driver.
Yeah, exactly. So empathy and humor are very powerful tools, and I use the humor on stage, and I use empathy on stage.